just on an angle route, he sets the linebacker, makes sure he comes underneath, crossing his face. More celebration and dancing for the Ravens.
Lamar Jackson's still in the game in the fourth quarter. He's going to find Snead for the touchdown again. Lamar Jackson, the only player to have 5 passing touchdowns in his Monday Night Football debut. The Ravens would score touchdowns on all 6 drives in which he was on the field, and they win on the road 45-6. We're running out of words.
I'm trying to win the Super Bowl, and we taking the game at a time. I'm not worried about MVP, you know. If it come, I'll be satisfied, but I'm trying to win the Super Bowl. That's a team award, and that's what I want.
LJ, MVP. If you got a problem, come see me. Just run that back from last week. That's all I'm gonna say. Man, people been trying me, but they can't validate their opinions. So LJ for MVP.
Is anyone having more fun right now than the Ravens? And here's one of the reasons why. Lamar Jackson's QBR last night was 99.7. It's his 3rd game with a QBR of at least 99. He has now played the best 3 games by any quarterback in the last 5 seasons, and he is the first ever to have 3 such games in the history of this metric, which goes all the way back to 2006. So I know it is my job to come up with interesting questions. But at some point, I just have to say, Marcus, what? I mean, what are we seeing here?
We are seeing generational talent. We're seeing one of one, right? And look, you want to describe him in so many ways, but the one way to describe Lamar Jackson is you've never seen this before. Stop the comparisons. I said it last night, G. Stop comparing Lamar Jackson to anybody you've ever seen play in the league. I know we love to say Michael Vick. I know we talk about Randall Cunningham and how athletic those guys were. There has never been a Lamar Jackson to play in the NFL. And now the fact that he's delivering the ball from the pocket as patient and seeing defenses like he is, this is transcendent talent that we've never seen before.
Dan, he had you Googling words so you could figure out how to describe what you're saying.
On the drive-in this morning, I was Googling words like, what would be something, how do you describe something that is indescribable? That's what I was Googling, just to try to find words to describe. Like, I have nothing. I would love to sit here and sound smart. There's an artist by the name of Chris Tomlin who literally has a song, Indescribable. And that's the only thing I could think about right now. That when I watch him play, I'm trying to figure out, what am I watching? Like, first of all, you don't know where the football is. I don't know if anybody else saw this or felt this way when they were watching the game last night. But even on the television, I have no idea where the football is. Imagine playing on the field and trying to stop it. But right now, it's just indescribable. I've said it's indefensible right now as an offense. And to me, I can't sit here and put Lamar Jackson in a box and say he is this. Right now, he's, when you're holding a water balloon and water starts coming out, there's a hole and it starts popping, you put your thumb on it, and then all of a sudden there's another break and you put your thumb on it, and then all of a sudden there's another one, you're like, wait, you can't, you run out of fingers to try and stop
Greeny,
the
you got a
leak
word
of this
yet?
offense.
At some point, you're just going to get a new balloon. But in this case, there's really nothing you can do to stop this guy. And have we mentioned, by the way, that he's 22 years old? Have we mentioned, by the way, that Joe Burrow, who is probably going to win the Heisman, is older than Lamar Jackson is right now? Lamar won the Heisman when he was 19 years old. And last night, he became the first player in NFL history with 3,000 passing yards and 1,500 rushing yards in his first 2 seasons. And by the way, he still has all this time left to go in this season. He is genuinely doing things no one has ever done before.
Here's the crazy thing. How many guys in the NFL that are so good and you want to watch them that even in the blowout, you leave the television on? Like, that game was a blowout, and I was like, I don't want to turn it off.
Gee, it's not supposed to happen in the NFL. This is the best the world has to offer. And for an individual to make other guys look like they shouldn't be in the NFL, like there's another level to where I play where you guys can't reach, that is crazy to watch.
You were telling us in the meeting you want to talk a little bit about Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, and something they're doing.
Absolutely. For as much as we are lauding Lamar Jackson, we have to give Greg Roman credit as well. Because Greg Roman is literally going into weeks of preparation and saying, Lamar, you go be you. I'm going to put you in the best possible situation. The number one thing that a player needs from a coach is to feel like you are putting me in a position to succeed. And Greg Roman is doing this. We talk about Lamar, but we see Mark Ingram balling at a high rate like his younger years with the New Orleans Saints. Snead, we see Marquise, we see Andrews. This whole offense is operating at a premium level. And look, we can say it's because of Lamar Jackson, but there are some things Greg Roman is doing offensively that other teams are having to pay attention to, and I think it would work if Lamar Jackson wasn't playing quarterback.
So then they're indefensible. No one can stop them. They're going to win the championship, right?
I'm not going there yet.
Okay.
I'm not going there yet
Okay,
because
I am.
Because of who? I mean, this is New England is still there. They're still in the NFL.
They boat race New England.
You know what's the crazy thing was the Rams gave up 44 points in the last 4 games that they played. They got 45 hung on them last night.
Yeah, Hembo told me this morning our football power index, our analytics give New England and Baltimore basically a flat-footed tie as the favorites in the AFC. We have much more on Lamar Jackson as our morning continues. And oh, by the way, we'll talk about the Rams, who are in all kinds of trouble as well. But before we do that, let's get to the Cowboys.
We have to. We've got a resident Cowboy here. NFL's informed the Cowboys that both of the tripping penalties called against them in their 13-9 loss to the Patriots should not have been called. Can we have a collective duh? The Cowboys have yet to beat a team with a winning record, and this weekend Jerry Jones has placed the blame squarely on the shoulders of his head coach Jason Garrett, who talked about that relationship.
You meet with Jerry all the time. Have you talked with him since last night's game?
I have not. Typically we have a personnel meeting on the Monday after the game, but we haven't traditionally done that when we have the short weeks. We just get our eyes forward. Really it's the same message. It's the same message if you win the game or lose the game. The biggest thing is get your eyes forward. The biggest thing for us is to get our eyes forward on this game on Thursday. But again, our eyes are forward on Buffalo.
So Garrett's one of 6 active NFL coaches who've been with their teams for at least 10 years. He's the only one of those 6 that hasn't won the Super Bowl, and he's the longest tenured coach in Cowboys history without one. He'd probably just take a winning record in the playoffs. Joining us live now from Dallas is NFL reporter Todd Archer. Todd, what's the mood on the ground in Jerry World right now?
Yeah, the team really follows Jason Garrett's message, and they really yesterday talked to guys in the locker room that they were on to Buffalo, to steal a Bill Belichick quote, and they really believe that, look, they still control their whole destiny in their hands. ESPN's FPI has the Cowboys as a favorite for each of the last 5 games, including the Week 16 matchup at Philadelphia. So as bad as things have gone and not beating a team with a winning record this season, they still believe they can be a team that does some damage. Now, they actually have to beat a team with a winning record, and that could start this week against Buffalo. But Jason Garrett, he doesn't get caught up in all this stuff around Jerry Jones. He knows that's kind of what comes with the dinner of being this team's coach. So he's really trying to maintain a patient face in front of this to help his team deal with this as well. And in the past, they've responded. We'll see if they can respond again, because if he doesn't, then we know Jerry Jones will be looking for a new head coach.
The best way that he can help his team is to fix some of their issues. What would you say is their most glaring issue on that team?
Well, you look at Amari Cooper coming off a game without a catch for the first time as a Cowboy. That has to be at the top of the list. But the good news for Amari Cooper and the Cowboys is this game is at AT&T Stadium. If you look at his 6 road games, he has 17 catches, 213 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In the 5 home games, it's 39 catches, and he has 100 yards receiving in each of his last 3 games. Yes, Buffalo has a good pass defense. Tre'Davious White is second and tied for second in the NFL in interceptions. But Amari Cooper, no matter who he's played against at home, has always succeeded. And last year on Thanksgiving, 180 yards against Washington, including a 90-yard touchdown. The Cowboys will need some of that. Jason Garrett will need some of that as well.
Seems like the holiday is coming at a good time because they're pretty good on Thanksgiving Day games. Todd Archer joining us from Dallas with the latest on what's been, well, pretty interesting last few days there. Right, Greeny?
To say the least. And Swagoo is here, our resident former Cowboy, as you pointed out. We'll get to you in a second. I did just want to quickly address the very first thing Al said, which is the league comes out and says the 2 tripping calls should not have been made. And it's a tripping is a penalty that you see so seldom in the NFL. You can live, I almost feel like you can live with a bad interference call, a bad this or that, but to just make up 2 tripping calls, particularly one in the biggest spot of the game, frankly, is inexcusable.
And everyone was able to see that it wasn't tripping. Like anyone, casual fan or diehard fan that has been around the game of football realized this wasn't tripping. And NFL, guess what? Like, your apology means nothing. It doesn't take the loss away from this team's win or loss record. Don't apologize anymore. Get the calls right.
This was the most watched thing on television since the Oscars and the most watched sporting event on television since last year's Super Bowl. And for some reason, the officials decided to insert themselves into that at that moment. Let's put that aside, because that isn't the biggest reason the Cowboys lost. So, Wagyu, let's deal with those if we can. Unless, where do you look like you're ready to go. I'm just watching you go. Go ahead, big fella. Where are you taking me?
It's coaching. All right. And look, I'm going to tell you this, G. When they tell you the wind is blowing hard, move your return man up. When you have an opportunity against the Patriots in the red area, go ahead and try to score a touchdown because you ain't did it all game. So what makes you think you're going to be able to kick a field goal and go back and do it again? And then, two, when you think about what this team has done, and I continue to say this and I'm going to keep beating this dead horse, they've done everything to put themselves in a position to win. Period. Like, there is nothing else to point to but Jason Garrett in this situation. They've changed coaching staffs. They've changed offensive coordinators. They brought in Chris Richard. They've signed players. They committed to Zeke. They brought this O-line together. Everybody's back healthy. What is the one thing that's left that hasn't changed about the Dallas Cowboys? Jason Garrett. And you know what keeps happening? This is the definition of insanity. They keep doing it. Jerry keeps making those excuses. And I think for the first time yesterday, we saw Jerry draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I know that this is not good enough anymore. And one thing I know about Jerry Jones, playing in our organization for 8 years, when those Dallas Cowboy fans start talking loud, he listens because he respects them. And it's a lot of people around him that know a lot about football, and they understand what's going on right now.
When was the last time you heard a general manager talk about their head coach this way? When was the last time you heard, just listen to Jerry Jones? What is he saying about Jason Garrett right now? 2 times in the last 3 weeks, he has singled Jason Garrett out as we lost because of him. We lost because I have him and the other team has that guy. Look at the playoffs, guys. Look at New Orleans with Sean Payton, Bill Belichick with Kraft and Baltimore with Harbaugh, Pete Carroll in Seattle. Listen to the way those general managers talk about their head coaches. When was the last time Jerry Jones pointed to